Alrighty.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We're here with owner and founder of Charlotte Metro FC, me and Benji. You're going to be doing some questions about the business.
So our first question is going to be about the club. Why and when was Charlotte Metro FC founded?
Charlotte Metro FC was founded on 2013. We started with two teams only, two boys teams only back in the days. And we are today with a club of 520 kids, boys and girls. And the reason why, because we believe that football provide different type of opportunities for children, not just for the ones who wants to get it to the highest level, college, professional, but itself, football is a tool of education and opportunities for us, and that's the reason why we founded Charlotte Metro FC.
What legal entity is Charlotte Metro FC?
Charlotte Metro FC is an LLC registered on the state of North Carolina.
Is there a reason why LLC?
Not a specific reason. It was the recommendation of our lawyers to make the business as an LLC.
What specific structure, or what was the specific structure chosen for? Liability protection? Does it help with like taxes? Is LLC not?
Liability protection.
Liability.
Yes.
Okay. Like injuries.
Yes.
In the players.
Yes.
Okay. What is the biggest challenges in balancing player development but also competitiveness?
The biggest challenges is always convincing the families and the players that football is a process, that things don't happen from one day to another. And unfortunately, in this culture, everybody wants to have results right away from one day to another. And the challenge is to convince people that if they stick to the process, they will reach what they're looking for. Now, there is different kind of players, right? So you have the teams that just play because they just want to have fun, and then you have the teams that and players that they just want to reach the next level. So keeping the balance in between those is always a challenge.
Okay. How do you ensure that coaches meet national or state licensing requirements, or if there's any that they need to have?
Yes, well, definitely. In our club, we have coaches with different type of licenses. The minimum requirement with U.S. soccer is to have the grassroots license, 77, 99, and 11 versus 11. So usually our coaches that work with the younger kids, the academy kids, have the licenses. We have coaches that have a UEFA Pro license, which is the highest license standards in the world. The club itself support every coach in the club with coaching courses every year.
To get those licenses renewed?
To get the license, well, not just renewed, to advance in every year. For example, you start in grassroots and you can go all the way to the A Pro license here in the United States, and with the club support the coaches to do that.
Okay. Are there any contracts with the U.S. Soccer Federation?
Not a contract, but an affiliation. Yes, we are affiliated to the federation.
Okay. Is there any other partnerships or affiliations that Charlotte Metro FC has with leagues, schools, or national organizations?
Yes, well, locally, we partner with a couple of CMS schools because our organization also runs an after-school program for underprivileged children. So we partner with CMS schools. At the competitive club level, we partner with different clubs around the world. One of the clubs that we do most of our international clinic is Malaga Club de Football in Spain. But that's just one of the many partnerships that we have locally.
So now we're moving into the legal and safety compliance part. What laws or regulations govern youth sports clubs in North Carolina?
Well, every member of the clubs gotta have safe sports courses every year. That's one. Child abuse, that's the other one. and background checks. So every single coach, manager, and member of the club gotta have those courses.
So moving on, what you said about safe sport. So how does the club comply with safe sport background check requirements or youth protection standards? Are there any legal requirements for background checks?
Yes, they are. So, for example, to be working with children in the United States, every coach, every member of the club have to go through background check every single year and through safe sports every single year. And the regulations to that, you gotta have a social security number and be legal in the United States.
What kind of liability insurance or waivers are required for parents and players?
So we have our club waiver that the parents have to sign for the children to participate. But also the league, US Club Soccer, have the waivers for us to sign for the players to participate.
Okay, good. Are there any specific field or facility permits needed for practices and games? And if so, what law or regulation require those permits?
Every single field that we use, either our own or the ones that we rent, let's put an example, park and recreation, you gotta have your own liability insurance in order to rent those facilities.
Okay. What agencies are involved and like how does it work when it comes to the fields and stuff like that?
Can you repeat again? Okay.
What agencies are involved and how do you guys work with those agencies if there are any involved?
Well, agencies, for example, if you wanna rent a park and rec field, you gotta go to park and rec facilities and rent it. If you wanna rent a CMS facility, you gotta go to CMS building usage facilities.
How does the club handle player injuries or emergencies on site?
Okay, every single field that we play have their own trainers every weekend. That is provided by the league. So if something happened to the children, first responder is a trainer at the facility. If it's something more serious, then the league has to call 911.
And are there any laws requiring any particular practices from like injuries when it comes to injuries or trainers and stuff like that for the club, or is that just used from the league?
Well, the safe sports course teach every single coach and manager to handle that aspect that you have to go through that course, but just the practices are when you are in a game, the trainer and the league itself has the obligation to provide the children and the athlete with the safe environment.
Moving on to the financial and operational management. How is the club funded? Is it funded through like player fees, sponsors, donations, or tournament winnings?
The main revenue in our club is by membership. We also have sponsors that provide access to kids that cannot pay. So we full scholarship about 20% of the children that play in this club that they don't have to pay a cent, and those are used part of the membership that they pay for it, and the other part is covered by the sponsor.
How does the club handle financial transparency and budgeting?
We have a board of directors that handle that, and the treasurer is the one in charge to handle the transparency.
What challenges arise from the seasonal nature of youth soccer? What are challenges that happen during the season, whether with the players or funding or anything?
Well, it depends, right? So in some cases, you may have challenges where families are not very committed. And maybe, for example, a quick, simple example, you plan a tournament in a weekend and 3 families don't show up. Then you have to be running in a Friday night to find another player from the club to go and cover those kids. Those are one of the challenges that is pretty common, the commitment for some families. Then other challenges, to be honest, is to find qualified coaches that can coach in our club. That's another challenges that arise during the season as well.
How does the pricing work for membership or travel? it just depends on how many tournaments they enter, how far they have to travel?
Well, no, it's not depend on how many tournaments. It depends the level of competition that they play, right? So when you play academy, which is the enter of the club, 6, 7, 8 years old, there is one prize, right? But they play locally, mostly play dates on the weekends. Then you go to 99 and competitive, that this is now require traveling, tournaments, regional leagues, which the price is more expensive.
So like ECNL, like as you go up, it just gets more expensive.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Facilities and equipment.
So now we're gonna move on to facilities and equipment. Does
Mhm.
Charlotte Metro C own, rent, or partner for training fields? And what are the leases, contracts, etc.?
Okay, so our club owns a couple of fields that we use, and we also rent fields in the area. For example, for the little kids in our club, we use our turf facilities that we own it here in the west side of Charlotte, and we also rent private and public schools in the Charlotte area.
How do you ensure facilities meet safety and accessibility standards? What gives rise to the safety and accessibility standards?
Okay, so every school that we rent have their own safety protocols and security staff on premises. So basically, we pay for the rent, but they provide the safety and the security of the fields.
And are there any subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Can you repeat again?
Are there any subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Not that I know of, but that may be more a question for our board.
So moving on to the contracts. Are there any contracts made with players' parents for the season? If so, what happens if it is broken?
Okay, so this is youth sports. There are not professional contracts involved over here. It's just a contract between the club on the parents that you compromise yourself as a family to bring your children and follow the rules and protocols of the club. Now, to the question about what happens if the contract is broken, we are obligated to release any player that would like to end the contract with the club any time of the year. So there's nothing that actually ties the player to the club.
Alright. Well, now we're going on to licensing and regulation.
Mm-hmm.
What are local or state licenses that are required to operate, if there's any?
Okay, so as a business, North Carolina a business license to operate. As a club to compete, have all the standards that the league, U.S. Club Soccer in this case, asks for.
What agencies regulate youth soccer, youth sports?
Okay, so there are different organizations over here. U.S. Soccer, which is a federation, is the one who regulates everything that happens on the soccer part in the United States. And then you have organizations like a U.S. Club Soccer that own specific leagues. For example, U.S. Club Soccer runs ECNL, NPL, DPL, those leagues that are separate from U.S. Soccer Federation. But U.S. Soccer Federation, which is U.S. Soccer, they govern those leagues, right? So those are basically the leagues that rule football.
So U.S. Soccer Federation is the very top.
Yeah, the
That
very
governs
top is
everything.
the umbrella, yes.
Okay. Are there any coaches or staff considered employees or independent contractors?
Yes, and our club will have a mix of it. For example, most of the coaches are part-time coaches, which is called a 1099 contract that we have. And then we also have full-time employees over here that are under payroll.
How do you handle payroll benefits and legal requirements such as workers' and home? That's what the treasury does? Or?
Yeah, well, every employee of the club, regardless is a full-time employee or part-time employee, get a direct deposit on their banking account every year. So the treasurer and the bookkeeper of the club are in charge of running all the finances.
So moving on to suppliers and vendors. Have you ever run into any supplier issues? If so, how are they handled?
Yes, usually every year when it comes to order uniforms, we run into some issues. For example, this year we use a brand that the brand is from Spain, but they make all their clothing in China. So with the tariff that were going on from the government of the United States to China and many countries in the world, that made the prices go higher and also slow down the distribution of equipment, in this case uniforms for us. For example, this past season, we have to wait for some of our uniforms about 3-4 months after the season starts for the families to get their uniforms and equipment. So we run into some challenges with that.
And are there any written contracts with the suppliers for the uniforms, instead of training shirts and shorts?
Yes, we do 2 years cycle. So a family buys the uniform for the children, and that goes through 2 years, and that's the cycles that we use with our brand.
What are your main suppliers, uniform providers, field rental partners, equipment vendors, and how do these contracts with suppliers look?
Well, they're different. Uniform supplier is Homa, which is a brand from Spain. Equipment, we do it on our own. We choose the equipment that we want to buy and the people that we want to buy it from.
So now moving into the intellectual property branding. Has Charlotte Metro FC trademarked its name, logo, or brand? Either way, follow up about whether they take any action to protect their mark.
Yes, we are a registered mark.
Is this trademark?
Yep.
Well,
That'll be-
that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was thinking that like we could have been outside.